So a little bit about She's4Sports. We're a sports media company. We launched in 2016. Feels like a long time ago, but it also feels really great to see the momentum of women's sports and the investments and where we're at today. The company pretty much develops multimedia content, we produce events, we do digital series and video projects. We also work with various supporters of sports, advocates of sports, various clients who want to work on gender equity projects in sports, so we also do that as well. So yeah, we've been busy, and as I said, we love to see the growth of women's sports. And all of what we do really is about amplifying the voices of women in sports in Canada, and we'll be amplifying these voices today. You guys are in for a great treat to talk to and meet and hear from these leaders in sports, fashion, and business. So without further ado, we're just going to get right into it. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about our panelists. So I will start with Lisa. Lisa Diep is a Vietnamese first-generation Canadian and Chief Operating Officer of the Peace Collective, a lifestyle, yes, you got some fans already here? Yes, for sure. Peace Collective is a lifestyle brand aimed at helping you look good while giving back, and I think we can all get behind that. Peace Collective is at the forefront of women's sports apparel, holding strategic licenses with the WNBA, PWHL, alongside other leagues such as the NFL, MLB, NBA, and MLS. Lisa. Perdita. I feel like I would need like 3 or 10 pages to read Perdita's bio, so I really hope after this event you all go and Google and find out more about these ladies because, you know, just reading a short bio doesn't give it a lot of justice. But Perdita Felicien is a 2-time world champion, a 2-time Olympian, a 10-time national champion, and Canadian record holder. Perdita is the first woman in Canadian history to win a gold medal in track and field at the World Championships. She's also a broadcaster with CBC Sports, host of the Emmy-winning show All Round Champion, and author. Morgan Young is the Director of Brand and Community for the Toronto Tempo, where she leads brand strategy, community engagement, and fan experience. With over a decade of marketing and strategic leadership experience, Morgan has built and executed award-winning campaigns for top Canadian brands and sports teams, excelling in consumer marketing, PR, corporate partnerships, and purpose-driven projects. Before joining the Toronto Tempo, she served as Director of Commercial Strategy at MLSE. Morgan. And Andrea Rose beside me, I was like, you won. Like, this fit. I'm like, what are we all doing here, right? Yeah, she left no crumbs. Okay. Andrea Rose is a Toronto-based celebrity stylist and creative. Her background in theater and dance education led her to pursue a career in costuming and styling. Andrea's creativity and talent as a stylist can be seen in various campaigns for MLSE with their roster of former and current athletes, Universal Music Canada artists, and brands such as Canada Goose and Nike. So this rounds out our panel. So first question off the top, can each of you describe your personal style? And I can pass the mic down to Perdita if she wants to start.
No, you have the skirt on. You're starting.
Like, listen. Okay. That's like such a loaded question for me, but I would say my personal style is forever growing. Like a lot of women, I'm sure you guys can relate that very much so. I'm dressing for where I'm at in my life. Maybe like 10 years ago when I was working in like luxury retail, I was like the heels on the TTC every single day type of girl. Now, because of what I do, I'm running around malls, I'm on set. So I'm a full sneakerhead. You will not catch me on a heel unless I'm like going out with my girls now. But yeah, I think my personal style all around, I like color, I like texture, I like adventure. I appreciate anyone who is willing to explore the art of maximalism. Nice. Yes, maximalism, yes. More is more. I'm a more is more girl, yeah.
I'm the opposite of that. I am. I don't know how I got up here, to be honest. I've been told my style is like Steve Jobs. Most days I'm in a black turtleneck and jeans, and that's really the extent of it. But I just want to be comfortable. I think it's not having to think about it. So pretty consistent, and I'm gonna pick your brain on style after this because I could learn from you.
But to me, that's classic. That's, you know what I mean?
Classic,
It's
yes.
clean, it's sleek, it's classic. You can't really go wrong.
There you go.
It's all about comfort too. I feel like you have to be comfortable. Like these heels are not very high, trust me. So I think for me, like in a nutshell, like I like bold, I like colors. I always think about how will this look on Instagram. So I kind of dress for the gram, which I don't know if I recommend that. But yeah, for me, it's just always, I think, shining bright. If I think about the way I like to dress, it's also, I like to stand out as well. So that's mine.
I think for me, I'm pretty much like Morgan, comfortable. I think I make too many decisions on like a regular basis that I can't really make a decision about my wardrobe. So I'm gonna have to pick your brain too after.
Just to be clear, I'm the same way. Like this is a one-off. This is like once a month. Yesterday, I was at the Eaton Center in like sweats and like a really, really raggedy hoodie, and I was just praying not to run into people that I know. So we all do it sometimes.
Okay. Let's get into the WNBA. Last season, the WNBA saw their merch sales skyrocket to over 601%. Morgan, can you talk a little bit about the shift in attitude towards women's sports and how that impacts merchandise sales?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and I feel like we see all these stats across the industry all the time that we kind of become numb to them, but the significance of that is absolutely insane. I know when you sent that question, the Deloitte study had just come out that our industry is going to be worth $2.35 billion USD this year. Yes, that deserves a clap. And, you know, last year it was 1.3 and we surpassed it to 1.88 globally for women's sports. So that's huge. And I think, you know, it's not just one thing. There's so many places where this investment is coming from. And I feel like this whole room can collectively go, finally, like we've been here, we've been asking for it. But it's coming from partners, it's coming from investors, it's coming from media outlets, giving women the space that they deserve. It's driving up all of these investments. And so merch is going up with that, and rightfully so. And I think it's becoming so much more mainstream to be a part of this. And so we're excited to bring everyone along on this journey. But it sort of used to be if you're wearing that orange hoodie, it was if you know, you know. And now if you're not wearing that, everyone watches women's sports shirt. Who are you? Like we actually got asked that this week. Somebody asked us that in the office, and I kind of laughed at them. But yeah, I think it's just we're all in this together, and it's really exciting to see that people are so proud to be repping our merch, to be, you know, this is part of their identity and it shows their values. So these things are all colliding, and it's really, really exciting to sort of watch this swell, and it's not going to stop. It's just going to continue. So yeah, it's really exciting to be a part of.
This question wasn't on my list for you, Perdita, but, you know, talk a little bit about the power of athletes to influence this space that we're talking about, fashion and sports.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I truly believe that style is a sport. And if you think about who gets to play sports, you got to have some pretty, special traits and abilities just to start. But when you think about style, everybody gets to play, right? Whether you're taking a day off or you're not, everybody gets to play. And I love this emergence where we are now talking not just about how well did you win, but like, well, what are they wearing? And what they're wearing tell me that they're communicating to me or to other people. And so I'm excited about this. Like, I'm from a generation, I've been retired 10 years now, but that visual appeal, that visual impact was not like entrenched in my generation of racing and competing, but it really is and squarely is now. So not only are you thinking about what you're eating and your nutrition, you're also thinking about like, what am I gonna wear for my tunnel walk? Like, that's super important now, right? And I just love that, but I think it's a really powerful time, and it's not going anywhere either.
Lisa, can you talk about the shifts and the trends in sport apparel and the journey, Peace Collective took with getting into the women's market?
Yeah, for sure. I think just like not specifically for women's sports, but in the entire like sports industry as a whole, we've seen such an evolution of sports merchandise go from, just regular game day outfits or like, a t-shirt that you buy at the arena for the game, more into everyday staples, things that you're gonna wear on a daily basis, like your favorite shirt, your favorite jacket. So that coupled with the fact that, for now with women's sports, there's such a resurgence of women's sports, different leagues, and everything like that. I think what's also really important is that women hold about 80% of consumer spend in the economy. So I think those two together kind of have like a recipe for success. For Peace Collective, I'd like to say we were a little bit early on this. We kind of had this.
I was like, claim it.
We kind of had this inkling in our stomachs that women's sports was coming. It was coming big, and it was here to stay. So I think our litmus test was actually during the first Canadian exhibition game for the WNBA at the Scotiabank Arena, and I think during that game, I think the MLSE had only asked about 3 different vendors or 3 different brands to outfit some of the stadiums. So it was us, Jordan Brand, and I believe Nike as well. And we said, you know what, let's try it out. We're going to ship about 2,000 units to the arena, and we'll see how it does. I think a week after that game, we got our sales report, and we had a 90% sell-through. And from that point on, that kind of tested our hypothesis that, we need to go all in.
And Andrea, talk a little bit about, Lisa talked about everyday style in sort of sportswear, just sort of integrating into everyone's everyday style. What are some trends that you're seeing in that space? And sort of also talk about your approach to working with athletes and, getting to a place where you can execute their vision.
So definitely, trends are cyclical. We know this. Like, we're seeing the Juicy Coutures and the Von Dutch all come back, and all the things that I was getting in trouble for wearing in middle school that I can now wear, in my early 30s and rock it, which is great. But I definitely think the biggest trend is more of an energy. It's maximalism. It's especially in women's sports, showing duality of women, I think, for a very long time. And I speak to a lot of my friends who, work in sports and grew up playing sports. And, the trend used to be oh, you're a tomboy. And it was pigeonholing people as this type of role where women are so much more than that. And, we saw it in the Super Bowl ad for Nike where they showed the duality that you're going to get maybe labeled these things, you're going to get called these things, so just do it anyways, and that definitely stuck with me. So I think the biggest trends that I'm seeing sports-wise is the fact that people are taking risks, they're showing their identity, just like Perdita, clearly, love to see it. Very bold, but not even just always bold, whatever is true to the athlete specifically, we're seeing them show much more of their personality in their ad work, in their charitable efforts, in their tunnel walk, which is super, super cool because I think there's definitely more of a connection to the consumer when it comes to that. And I grew up, like you said, I grew up in the theater world. I grew up in the art space a lot more. I was, my parents tried to get me into soccer and stuff. I was doing cartwheels on the field. It was not my not my destiny in life to be a pro athlete by any means. So now I'm in the sports world, and I just love the sense of community. And I think the most exciting thing is that these athletes are what brings everyone together, Scotty Barnes in the city. It's you see him on King Street and he's just he's a nice guy. I've worked with him on set, super, super cool, really personable to everyone. And that kind of shows the kind of energy that we want to have within our city. So to answer what you asked in terms of working with an athlete, a lot of the times, I'm working with their teams, I'm working with their management, we're talking about where we see them going. And I was also saying there's always kind of 2 types of athlete. You get the person who just wants to play their sport. They don't care. If they're not in a sweatsuit, you lay it out and they're sure, they might have a couple little comments or preferences that I keep in mind. Or you get the ones who are my first job ever with the MLSE was actually really crazy. I put Gary Trent Jr. on my vision board on Pinterest. And then a week later, I got a call from the producer there saying, hey, we have a job with Gary Trent. And I was low key, I was freaking out so much because I was I cannot screw this up because not only is this my first job with this company that I've wanted to work with, it's also someone who I really admire his style. And he came in and he had boxes of jewelry and all the things, and it was super, super cool. So you get one of both, but I always say overall, when I'm working with people, and it's not ad work where I'm fulfilling a brief, and it's their personal style, I always give people the power of no. So I tell everyone that, like, if you don't feel comfortable, if this doesn't feel like you, like, why are you wearing it? Like, it doesn't make sense, you know? So that's probably my biggest approach through all of my work, is that if it doesn't feel like you, and yes, we can take risks, but if it doesn't feel like you know, there's so much on the market. Like, we'll find something, I promise you. So yes, that's my approach with the athletes.
I like that, and that leads me to my question to Perdita about athletes. You know, how do they strike that balance between being authentic, but also the pressures of knowing that they're their own brand and they also have to market themselves?
Yeah, well, I think I love this era that we're in with sport, right? Because, you know, I like to say I'm a dinosaur, I'm a relic. Like, back in my day, if you're in the NCAA, you couldn't work. NIL, like name, image, likeness, that was no such thing. So commercially, you didn't get to control where you appeared and what you did, but then you have this machine, the NCAA, that can use your name, use your likeness, put this ball in this hoop, make billions of dollars, yet you're not getting much of that upon return. And I know people say, well, you get a scholarship, you get a full ride. Yeah, fine, but I'm also earning that. But on top of that, commercially, these institutions are so rich, and so finally you're seeing that athletes of all levels are able now to, get a part of that share that they've put in. And you know why I love it so much? It's because if you think about the lifespan of any athlete, any sport, it doesn't matter. Now, when you can control your personal brand, you can connect with your fan base personally, you can DM people who are following you, X, Y, and Z, you really get to control your path forward. And if your career ends, which it will, you can create something that will outlast your playing time, right? There's a legacy there now that you are able to create for yourself that will allow you to eat once your knees, like me, when they go. When they go, and I think that is a really powerful thing. But why I love this era that we're in, especially for women and young girls and other marginalized genders in sport, is because now you can see, there's room for me, there's space for me. You see us as leaders. You see us as entrepreneurs. And I know we talk about inspiration all the time, but there's something about seeing somebody else doing that thing and them being aspirational. It tells you and it signals to you, if you're a young girl in sport, whatever the sport is, it can be the fringiest sport or the most popular sport, that I could do that thing. Look at Morgan doing this, having a seat at that table. Look at Perdita, look at Lisa, look at Andrea. They can suddenly aspire to that thing. And so that's why I like about athletes being able to control the narrative, control their brand, and really make it what they want, separate from these orgs, separate from these teams.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you.
Morgan, I want to get you in on this, and Perdita talked a lot about if you can see it, you can be it, and that visual aspect of brand and style. Can you walk us through the Toronto Tempo's launch of your merchandise and sort of what went through the planning around that and how you executed it? But also, I know you worked with a lot of women too on some of the campaigns, and sort of how did that unfold?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of speaks for itself. If anyone's gone on our website, we're pretty sold out at all times, which is kind of a cool thing. We're working on that. We hear you. No, it's been great. I think the entire DNA of our team has been built on, the community. And you've all kind of touched on it here. Like, our merch is meant to be more than just a T-shirt on game day. We don't have game day for a while. So how do we make sure that what we're curating is stuff that people want to wear and put into their wardrobe as part of their overall style, that they can, maybe layer it under a bright suit or, wear it with a pair of jeans, however they want to do it. We wanted to make sure that there was something for everyone and that it was very accessible. Talking to the community, the process that the team went through, everything from our name to our colors to our branding, our logo, merch was part of that. And the ecosystem that was built was really taking into consideration how all of that would look when you all get to wear it on the street. And so it was really important when we thought about who was creating it, who was coming to the table. We have work to do. There's a long road ahead of us. But to get started, it was really important. We wanted to make sure women were at the table. And there's so many others that we're thinking. We want to make sure that we have Canadians at the table. That's really important for us. Long before the political climate got to where it was, that was already on the radar. We're Canada's team, so we want to make sure that we rep Canada. and so many other communities. We want to make sure that we have BIPOC, that we have Indigenous specifically, that we have the queer community. We want to make sure that that list keeps growing, and it's on our radar to keep working with those people and to elevate those who are already here before us. We know we're new. We want to make sure that we're using our platform and we're creating this merch to uplift the people who have given us the privilege of being in this room right now. So, that's really where we're going, but it's where we wanted to start as well, and it's been a great success. We've gotten lots of feedback. I'm reading every single one of your comments on our Instagram, so know that it's being heard, and we're working on it. So more to come, and throughout the summer, hopefully we'll have lots more to share with you.
Thank you, Morgan. Lisa, Morgan talked about creating community and making sure that you have representation from different groups to sort of reflect this sort of merchandise space that we're in. So talk to me a little bit about the Peace Collective and some of the partnerships that you guys have been able to secure with women, in sports, in business, or just in lifestyle.
I think for us, women in sports has always been like a really big topic for us. We have started working with the WNBA, I think pretty early on, since we had already started working with the NBA around 2017. Since then, we began working with the PWHL and most notably the FIFA for FIFA Women's World Cup, which is coming up in 2027 and in 2030. For us, we wanted to make sure that the partners that we work with align with our values and that we're extension of their brand as well. Community has always been kind of like the heart of everything that we do, especially when we're selecting the different partners that we work with.
Yeah, and I was saying for Morgan too, you worked with the Playa Society and I think it was We 21.
Round 21,
Round 21, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was probably really important for you to work with other women in the sports apparel space, as well as working with the Peace Collective.
Exactly. I know I had to get my favorite Peace Collective shirt out here today to rep, and Amanda matched me, so that's working out well. But it's amazing when you're in those rooms and you're talking to those women, and you can say this is the style and the fit, and they already get it. Like so many times, you walk into a men's sports retail store and it's kind of like, here's the one look that we have for you, and the women's is a V-neck or it's pink and glittery, and it drives us nuts. So when we are talking to these women founders and owners, it's amazing because they already are ahead of us. They already know what women want to wear, the shapes that we like wearing, and so that's been incredible to work and sort of all understand each other.
Perdita, I'm going to turn to you. You talked a little bit about being an athlete, a high-performance athlete, and then transitioning into broadcasting, into other, business opportunities. So for some of the folks out here who may be in that space of transitioning to something else, how were you able to, continue on with your style now that you were entering a different space of work?
I think the biggest thing, I think most of us, and especially women, and talking personally, we're not really dressing for the gaze of anyone else, right? We're kind of dressing for ourselves and to express ourselves. And I think when you do walk into a room, I always think about, well, what have I come to say? What do I want to say? What do I want people to think when they look at me? What do I want to think when I look at me? Damn, right? And here's the truth, though. I remember when I knew I wanted to get into broadcasting, and I knew it for a while. I met with a woman who's on air, and she said, you have to dress the part. You have to already look the part that you want. And if you sit down with any casting producer, any agent, anyone, when you sit in front of them, you have to already look like you fit for the role. And that's never really left me. So I like to tell people, be authentic, look like yourself, dress like yourself. But again, it has to fit the occasion. But at the end of the day, like the emperor's new clothes? Clothes are just clothes, right? Who you are inside, the work that you bring, the things that you do speak louder, I would hope, than what it is that you have on or what your hair looks like or what color your lipstick is, which are important for me, but they're not everything. But at the end of the day, for me, it's all about, does this space fit me? Regardless of how I show up, how I look, does this space fit me? And the biggest advice I could give anyone who's thinking about transitioning or pivoting or leaping into something else, don't be afraid to do that. If something is not working for you, and I remember for me, I was supposed to go to the 2008 Olympics, and I got injured, my foot, I couldn't go. And that was one of the biggest heartbreaks of my life. I've had a lot of heartbreaks in sport, but that was one of them. And it turned out that's how I discovered, CBC asked me to come I feel like I'm giving a motivational talk. I'm not. But CBC asked me to come and broadcast with them. I'd never done it. 2008, Raw. I'm supposed to be in this race. And I didn't want to go at all. And then my partner, who's my husband now, Morgan, he said, go. Who else can see it like you? And I think the reason I tell you that story is sometimes the thing that is disappointing, that lets you down, people saying you can't do this or you don't belong or we don't like, whatever it is, whatever that rejection is and feels like, that is your biggest blessing, right? You don't know it at the time. Do all the crying, because I sure did. But had I not had that experience in Beijing in 2008, I wouldn't have known for 5 years what I wanted to do. So just hold on tight to what your purpose is and your dream is. It will take different forms. It will look very different. But as long as you are holding it and guarding it, no matter what you're wearing, what you're doing, like guard that and you can get there for sure.
I like that.
Yeah.
I was like, it's like chicken soup for the soul. And I'll get Andrea in this too, because when we did our pre-call, you were like, I was doing theater stuff, I was doing this. So jumping off of what Perdita said, and for anyone out here who's thinking of getting into becoming a fashion stylist, can you take us through that journey of sort of how you found that this was your calling?
Yeah. Oh, it's a very, very long story, but to summarize it, I didn't graduate high school, which is like a weird thing for me to say publicly now, but I was never a really good student. I grew up dancing my whole life, and I got to school. I went to Etobicoke School of the Arts in Toronto, and I was there, and I was enjoying it. But I never really knew, it didn't stick for me the same way that some of my classmates were planning on going to, Alvin Ailey or the National Ballet, or that they wanted to pursue something in this industry. I was like, this is not for me. I'm good at it, but it's for me. And basically, our school had contracted someone to do all of the costuming for the musical theater, for the drama, majors. So I just asked this woman, I was like, hey, can I, apprentice under you? I want to learn how to sew. I always grew up loving clothes. I was always very into the Teen Vogues and all the publications and the Rachel Zoe show when, she was my first idea of what a stylist was. She lied, but it's okay. I thought it was way more glamorous sometimes. But yeah, essentially, I just, straight out of high school, I didn't do well, and I just joined the workforce. My parents are two business-minded people, and they were like, well, if you're staying here, get your butt a job, because what are we doing otherwise? And I would be downtown Queen West when it was very much so the fashion district. I was working at I might age myself with this a bit, but an Over the Rainbow, TNT, Mendocino. It was a good store back in the day. So I worked with all of these Toronto-based companies that were local, and they were entrepreneurs, and I wore a lot of different hats. I did everything from personal shopping to e-commerce to visual merchandising. And one day I just said, you know what? I'm done doing this. I'm done with the clock in. I actually got into the service industry after that. And to this day, I still moonlight as a bartender. It's my fun job, I like to pop out. It's cute. But yeah, essentially, and also, to be honest with you, my side hustle still feeds my career these days for what I need, for that pocket change, because cash is king. I don't care what anyone says. Yep, it is my favorite thing. So basically, over the course of the last decade, I just reached out to so many people over social media, in person, and I was just really, really hungry. And also because, in my later 20s moving out and stuff, I was actually hungry. I did not have enough food, money to support things. And I just built with a lot of really great people. I'm sure a lot of you in this room are familiar with our friends that are a street over at Makeway. The girls there, Abby and Shelby, are actually my chosen family now. And it literally came from me stumbling into their store one night when they first opened, right before the pandemic, or in what phase of the pandemic, I can't remember. But I just walked in because I just liked being in a women-based space. I just liked being around other like-minded people, other entrepreneurs. I actually went in for a Give and Grow plant, which is very, I don't know where Olivia is in the room, but that was it. I went in for a plant and I left with some of my best friends. And that's kind of been my mentality around my career as a whole, is that, you know, what we do, like you said, it's just clothes. Like, yes, they're just clothes, but at the end of the day, it really is something that it's behind like the messaging that we're doing, the supporting confidence and building community. That is the most important thing. So now I'm lucky enough where I'm able to work with a lot of my friends, whether they're on the brand side at a Makeway, at Nike, or in a production studio, or I'm also able to support my own friends in building their dreams, dressing them for their events and their like milestone life moments. So that's where I'm at now in my career, and it's very nice. I'm very grateful every single day that I get to wake up and do what I love. So yeah.
I like that your story is so authentic and you're just like, this is me. This is my journey. No one's path is straight, okay? No. It's all this up and down.
A lot of crying. So much crying.
But she's smiling now.
Yeah.
So Lisa, tell me, what is the most important thing that you've learned as an entrepreneur building Peace Collective? Because I'm an entrepreneur. So most of the women up here understand that lifestyle, and it's not easy. But you've got this, well-liked, well-storied, brand that people are just gravitating towards. But obviously, you know what the humble beginnings was like, right?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. I would say the one thing that I've learned over the course of my entire career so far, and something that I actually have to remind myself every single week, is never be afraid to ask questions. In my mind, there's no such thing as like a dumb question. There's no such thing as too many questions. If you need something, the worst thing that can happen is someone says no. But the upside to that is it could open so many opportunities for you. It might mean no, but, and then it's another set of doors. But yeah, like for me, I literally reminded myself this morning that, okay, it's going to be a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. So I would say never be afraid to ask questions.
Morgan, talk to us a little bit about your career. I know you worked with MLSC and now you're working with the Tempo. Is there something that you learned about yourself over the years that maybe surprised you, or you're like, you know what, I got this, I just got to keep one foot in front of the other? Specifically for those who may be in sports management here, or I've got my Seneca marketing students here, wanting to get some advice.
For me, it's kind of similar. Like the question piece, you can do a lot with questions, but it's staying curious. Like I know a lot of people, and I was actually asked this in an interview recently. They said, "When did you know the W was coming to Toronto?" And I was like, "Oh, the day that everyone else found out." Like, no, that's not true. I was already in there trying to ask a million people, what's going on? When do you think it's coming? Who's talking about it? Who was in the room? What were they talking about? When are they coming? And that curiosity is what allows you to open those doors. So I'm fully with Lisa on that being curious, because not everyone is going to go seek out those opportunities. Most people are going to sit back and wait for them to be brought forward. That's kind of just how I've sort of operated my career. I didn't intend to get into sports. My background is in neuroscience for school. It's not as cool as it sounds. But I one day was just like, I don't like working with this rat in this closed room, and I'm going to go find people to work with, and marketing sounds cool. And I just kept asking questions, and suddenly I'm up here with these amazing women, which is so much better than working in a room with the rats. Yes. But it's kind of cool, because then if you think, I've been working for however many long years, like where will I be in the next decade and the decade after that, just by following this? So I think it's just, seeking out, learn more about it, find the new social platform, see what someone's doing, and, ask them the questions, slide into their DMs. Like, they'll answer you. I've learned that. So, stay curious.
Talking about staying curious and, giving the public sort of an inside view, Lisa, can you talk about the licensing process and how does that work? Just for those curious folks out there who want to know that.
Yeah, for sure. So like I mentioned before, like the brands that we partner with, we always want to make sure that there's a proof of concept, but also we want to make sure that these brands, we align on their values, because that's essentially, at the end of the day, we're an extension of their brand and they're an extension of our brand. So for us, once we've kind of, aligned on a brand or a partner that we want to work with, we go into kind of like a deal structure where we align on the types of products that we're going to be working with, the regions, the royalty rates, what marks and logos that we're going to be working on, and also the length of the partnership as well.
Thank you. And I'm going to touch on a little bit of what Perdita had mentioned earlier, because it was on one of my questions about name, image, and likeness. So for athletes, specifically women athletes, how important is NIL in terms of increasing their access to be able to get sponsorships?
Well, women in sports have been historically overlooked, right? We probably still are being overlooked, but I think we're getting louder about it. We're really trying to change the narrative. And, our marketing dollars, our watch hours, all those things are on par with where men's viewing in sports are, but for some reason we're told that we're less. And, there's an athlete, I remember, and I love this example of Christina Clemens. So if you don't know her, she's an American hurdler. And I think she had a sponsorship with Nike or whoever. Not a lot of money, but decent. But she had been on the circuit a lot. So she's at the U.S. Olympic trials. And she wears these Dorito earrings. And they go viral, okay? They go viral. So much so they go viral that Doritos itself takes notice. That's the power of controlling the narrative. That's the power of having your personal brand. And so I remember seeing those earrings. I'm like, damn, I want a pair of those. Where can I get a pair of those? And she had just made them. She just created them on her own. She ended up making the Olympic team in 2021. And what does Doritos do? So smart, so smart. They send her own bag of Doritos with her face on it. And then she put it up on Twitter and it said, like, her last name is Clemens. She's like, call me Clemens Cool Ranch, right? And I thought that is so amazing. And then not only that, after that, they created, I don't know what the specifics were, but there was partnerships and sponsorships between her and Doritos. We are out there. We are doing the things. We are marketable. We are all that. But I think for so long, we've been told we aren't. Everyone wants to watch the men. I remember in tennis, it took them years to get equal pay, right? And we're still fighting for equal pay in many, many ways. So the tides are turning. I truly believe what you say, Morgan, that it's not going to change. And we just have to continue making more noise and showing up. And I have a little girl. Maybe she'll do sports, maybe she doesn't. But I'm excited to see what the future holds and what it brings. But a lot of that is, there's people who have been making noise about this for years. This is the fruits of their labor. Didn't just happen overnight.
I like that. Talking about fans, Morgan, talk to me a little bit about how merchandise supports the Tempo's fan engagement priorities. And Perdita talked about new fans and more awareness out there. So for existing sports basketball fans, but also new fans as well.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool that we get to go build our own fans. And, there's so many men's teams out there, and they're kind of trading these fans around. You could be for this team, you could be for that sport, you could be for this league. But it's kind of this pool. And what's exciting for us is we get to actually pull people in who maybe never felt included in sports before, saw themselves in sports. And you know what? They don't actually have to care about basketball. They can get involved in the Tempo because they want to be part of what we're doing and what we're working towards. And you just touched on this sense of gender equity. Like, we have so much work to do, and some people are coming in just to join us on that mission, which is really cool. And our merch is part of their identity and shows their values and what they stand for. Every time I put on a Tempo shirt, I know it means something to the person who crosses me on the street and sees it. We know we can give each other a little nod and go, like, we're in this together. And that's super, super exciting. And that's why we're trying to use our merch as an extension of our brand. We don't want to just have it be a revenue play for us. In fact, it's not a major revenue play for us. We're investing in this space because we want our fans to feel included. And we're often asked, in these early days, how can I support the Tempo? I want you guys to be successful. And things like wearing our merch, yes, those are a couple dollars in the door for us. But it's more important that you're wearing it out in the community and that people see our brand around them and want to be a part of that as well. So It's definitely important for us. It's definitely part of our fan growth strategy. That's why we want to continue making these lines, why we want to continue pulling people in. And storytelling will be a huge part of that. We want to tell the stories of all these creators and these founders that we're working with because they have amazing stories too. So hopefully it inspires more people to get into the business. Hopefully the next time we're having a panel like this, there's even more people in the room that we get to work with, and maybe our future, creating their own future brands. So it's really important for us for growth, for sure.
And Andrea, let's talk a little bit about building community and, how does that happen when it's fashion and clothes and like-minded style? How do all those things converge and come together?
It starts like this, to be honest with you. That was like a huge thing for me when I was building my career was, I was so curious, like you said, and I would come to these things and I would just see who was, paving the way in my industry that I could connect with or talk to, or other people that were also, attendees to work with. And I think the biggest thing about community is, like the dollars and all the things aside, 100%, but it's just giving people a safe space. And we talked about stories as well. It's a huge thing. I'll just kind of share like a little bit of an experience that I had recently. So I talked about Makeway and how I obviously went in there as a customer, and I've been with them, obviously there's my good friends, but also they've put me on for a lot of campaigns with Jordan and Nike. And most recently, if you guys haven't heard, which I feel like you would have to live under a rock a little bit, they got their own Nike shoe. They had a shoe called the Party 6000, silhouette after the P6000. But the whole thing that people, who are new maybe to that space don't know is the Party 6000 is actually a party. Like it was very literally like somewhere where a bunch of friends would go and we would just dance and not even think about what we had to do on like a Monday. And I think it's one of those things where, we're running around, especially if you're entrepreneurial, you have a million things on your list. If you are a woman, especially, you have to be concerned about being a mother, being a friend, being a partner, being a daughter, all this laundry list of things. And I think the biggest thing is, especially what we're seeing with the Toronto Tempo, and the excitement around that is that it just gives you a space. It just validates the fact that you can see yourself somewhere within the community. And even I had an experience recently with the PWHL, my good friend Brianne Douglas, if you guys don't know her, she's an incredible visual artist. And I actually built my career with her, literally from sliding in her DMs and harassing her. And now, I'm celebrating her wedding in the fall, which is incredible. But she did a sculpture for the PWHL, and I went with her to shoot some content for them, and we were at this game, and there's little girls from up to my hip, to teenagers, to older women who grew up playing hockey and never saw themselves have this kind of space. And of course I started crying because that's what I tend to do. Anyone who's into horoscope, I'm a Cancer, so it's not my fault. But it was really this validating thing where I'm Canadian. I grew up in Toronto. I have obviously been to a Leafs game. I've obviously been to hockey games, but I'd never seen it like that. And I think that's the biggest thing is that we have the power as community to just come together and create what we want. We don't necessarily have to go and seek it out. If you want it to exist, you literally can just find like-minded people and create that. I think there was a lot of gatekeeping in Toronto. Unfortunately, I know, many years ago. And I say this all the time because, I work as a stylist and people don't really know what that is as a job. And in production, maybe 5-10 years ago, people were keeping their contacts to their chest. And now throughout the pandemic, I had a group chat with a bunch of other wardrobe stylists that we were I need a shoe in an 8. I need a top and an XL in this color for this production and blah, 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 blah. And we're handing off jobs to other people if we're booked. And it is such an incredible place to be in because that kind of mindset of not having a scarcity mindset and just sharing your resources and your inspiration and connecting with others that are in the same industry makes things so much more satisfying. On a daily basis, I work by myself. I'm like, I wake up, I do my emails by myself, I go to the mall by myself, I'm on set, sometimes by myself if I don't have someone to assist me. And it can get really lonely. So I think it's one of those things that, you know, I always say this, and it sounds very TED Talky, but I always say that you can go, you know, far, fast alone, but you will always go further together. And that's been my mentality with every single project, every single, you know, friend that I have in and out of this industry, is just make your connections and really, really hold them close in all aspects of life.
That's a really good message, especially for women. You know, we should all try to support each other and, you know, help each other out. As you said, if there's a job open for another person and you can't get to that job, you know, send a message to somebody else and maybe they can get that opportunity. Yeah. So, Morgan, what are the next things that Tempo fans can expect to see in terms of building that community and, you know, building that engagement?
There's so much exciting planning coming up this summer. I don't want to give too much away, but the end of May, hopefully you're all in the city, we're going to be doing our first event that you can come down, you can experience our brand in person. You're going to get to hang out with our partners, so many community partners. If you haven't heard from us yet, it's because we haven't reached out, so don't feel offended. We're going to be able to just hang out with all of you guys, and we're really, really excited about that. And then throughout the summer, we're going to be popping up across Canada because we're Canada's team. So look out for that. If you happen to be in Vancouver in August for the WNBA game, we will be there celebrating our fellow teams. And then if you happen to be in Montreal, we hope to pop up there as well. So some big milestones coming up, as well as, you know, all the exciting things that come along with building a team. We're going to have to hire a head coach. We're going to have to design our mascot. We're going to have to design our court. And all of those things, I mean, not the head coach, we'll leave that to Monica, but all of those things we're going to want your voices on. So when we post on Instagram, we post online, please participate. We want to hear from you. We want to make sure that this is what you want from us. So there's going to be a lot of homework for all of you.
As soon as you said mascot, I was like Ellie. I just thought of Ellie from the New York Liberty. I was like, are we going to have Ellie's cousin?
Some of our team was at the Nets game last night, and Ellie was there for Women's Impact Night, and she was just twerking under the net for like half an hour by herself, like no business doing anything else, and they just filmed the entire thing. So if you, hopefully we have some kind of an Ellie,
Available for hire.
Perfect.
I will put on a mascot suit expeditiously. I'm pitching myself right now. I will 200% do that. Somewhere I can still find the flexibility of my training, I promise you.
I was going to say, breaking news at the She's4Sports event. We found our mascot. Perdita, talk to me a little bit about, you know, what are you looking forward to seeing in terms of sports and fashion? And or are there certain people that you're following or certain trends that you're hoping to see?
Yeah, you know, I love the tunnel walk thing, right? I love it. It is great. And I know track and field, we're kind of trying to do that. And one person who, I don't know if I always want to talk about, Noah Lyles. He's the Olympic champion over 100 meters. You know, we watched him this summer at the Olympics. He's an interesting character. He's so talented. He's so good. And some of the things he does on the track frustrate me. But let me take off my broadcaster hat. Let me not judge this man. Okay, I try and keep it real. But one of the things I will praise him on is not his performance after the 200 at the Olympics, which was a whole thing that didn't go well. But he is really a polarizing figure in sport and in track and field, in a sense. But for him, if you do look up Noah Lyles and take away the antics that he has on the track, he really is a trendsetter in our sport. And so he's been doing some tunnel walks. Now, there's a few track Olympians in here. Maybe is it just us tonight? Kim's in the front. She's a fellow Olympian. Yeah, don't be shy. So Noah Lyles, if you Google him, whatever, he dresses up. He has a really eclectic, interesting style, unique style, which I love. I gravitate to. So track and field is a sport we don't have these big tunnel walk-ups, but he's been trying to do that these last couple seasons. He's been at like a lot of like Paris Fashion Week and New York Fashion Week. So he's really trying to push the envelope there. And so him and his agent, Mark Wetmore, are trying to make these kind of walk-ups part of track and field. He's having a hard time making them part of the program in meets, but he's trying. But him and his coach and his agent do it separately. And it's been really interesting to watch. And so he's had a couple athletes do it. None of the distance runners want to do it, though. We gotta fix that. But if you're running a 10,000, it might be really hard to like show up in like a Gucci fit. I don't know, because you got to focus on what you want to do. But what I love, and when I'm just thinking personally to track and field now, because you've asked me this, what I do feel I need to acknowledge is women in track and field, especially black women, black sprinters, have long been fashion mavens, trendsetters, like queens in sport and fashion. And while they didn't have the Instagrams and the TikToks and all that stuff to tell you about it, you remember FloJo. Right? You remember Gail Devers with her fingernails. You remember Shelley Ann Fraser-Price at the World Championships in 2022, every day had a different fluorescent wig. I remember there was a woman who's like, I'm a hairstylist, I'm a colorist. How is she able to change her hair? I said, lady, you don't want to have this talk right now. Don't worry about it, okay? She's good like that, right? But I do feel like I need to give the women in my sport, especially the sprinters, especially the black women in this sport, because we are talking about all these things now, and now it's mainstream and it's everywhere, but they've been on that, right? And that's where I got my inspiration from. And I remember I would go to track meets, I was like 15, 16, 17, and I would get my singlet, and I was like, okay, what can I do? I didn't have what FloJo had, the hoodie and the one piece and the one piece yellow icon. I'm like, I could get a little barrette, okay? You remember the size soup era? And clip the little clip piece that you pinch. You all know what I'm talking about. But they really, for me, was what I looked up to. So to now see this emergence of fashion and sport, and again, your femininity was always questioned, or they'd attribute certain things to you as a woman if you identified as a woman. And part of the pageantry, part of the lipstick, part of the dress up was claiming what people tried to take from you, right? Or the judgment that they put on you because you were muscular, because you were strong, because you were powerful, because frankly, they were intimidated. So the fact that women now have this space where you can be unapologetically you can identify how you want to identify, and you don't have to make any concessions or apologies for who you are. I love this space. I love this era. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I think I took all our time. But you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Really quickly, Lisa, what can we expect from the Peace Collective?
Oh, we have a lot more coming. We are working on our spring-summer line for the WNBA, and we have a few more special things up our sleeves, but I can't announce them just yet.
Stay tuned. And really quickly, Andrea, what's going on with you next? Or do you have a big project that you're working on, or something that you're manifesting outside of the mascot thing?
Apart from my career switch to being a professional WNBA mascot, to be honest with you, I'm just in a more of what I'm already doing. I'm super, super grateful that for the past couple years, I've been able to build a really solid foundation with really like-minded producers and clients and brands. So I just want to do the same thing. That was like, when you asked me to be a part of this, I was like, absolutely, because this is exactly the kind of space that I love to just be in. And experience other people and their stories, and like hearing you guys just sit back and and be able to hear your experiences and your opinions on your roles in the industry, because sports and fashion is very, very cross-sectional. It's such a big thing now culturally for a lot of us in our own ways, and I think for myself, career-wise, where I look to go is definitely working with more athletes, 100%. And just enjoying the ride.
Yeah, I like that. Before we get to your questions, I would be remiss if I didn't ask Morgan, and it's not on my questions for you, very quickly, tell us a little bit about, what you're hoping Serena Williams being aligned to the tempo is going to bring. We don't have to get into the nitty gritty, because I know there's a business side to that too. But in terms of her brand already, and it being now aligned to the WNBA and the tempo in Toronto, we've already claimed Serena as our cousins, right? Just would love your thoughts on that really quickly, if you don't mind.
One thing which came out with the original press release, shout out to Kraft, who released that. They're here in this room. She's going to be helping us design one of our jerseys, which is really exciting.
Breaking news!
Down the road, so be patient, but it'll take some time. We're going to do some work there, and hopefully some merch together as well. But it's just amazing to have a championship mentality from before we even have a single athlete on our team. So that's going to permeate. There's no way that we can lose with her. She's going to be on us. She's proud to be part of this team. She reps our gear all the time, and if you follow her husband, he's been wearing our gear for too long as well. I'm surprised no one figured that one out. But yeah, we're really just excited to have her, insert that into what we're doing and share her learnings. Her team is amazing. She's been, very hands-on through them over the last little while. So we're really excited, and she's all in. So hopefully she'll be at a few games. We have no commitments yet, but hopefully you'll see her in Toronto a lot more.
Thank you so much, and thanks to our panel. I hope you guys enjoyed this talk. And now we're going to get into a few questions before we get into our mini fashion show. So who has a question that they've just been sitting on?
So I work with Olympians and Paralympians and national team athletes, and a lot of them express interest in fashion or kind of showing their style more. So I guess this might be a little more for Perdita and Andrea, but curious your opinions too. For these athletes that don't necessarily have the money to go buy a new Gucci fit for walkouts or events, but want to show their style a little more and also compete in places where what you wear is pretty controlled or specific. Like, do you have any tips for bringing that personal style or working with fashion brands that isn't going to break a bank for a Paralympian or Olympian?
We'll gear that to Andrea just because I want to make sure we try to get to a couple more.
For sure, and that's a great question. I think this is kind of relatable for anyone. I say this to a lot of artists as well, who are independent artists who might not be signed by a label yet as well. The biggest asset that you have is everything that's in your backyard. In terms of local designers, vintage shopping, your friends' closets, whatever kind of deal. And for me, my experience in this industry, I have to front money for productions a lot of the time. So I don't necessarily have an overhead of $10,000 for certain projects to spend on, a couple outfits. I'm getting a lot more volume, so I have options to work with. And I think it's a huge thing that people really underestimate the value of just trying new things, looking on social media for different inspiration, and trying to style your items that you already have in your closet different ways. I never ever am the type of person that's you need to wear designer to look incredible, because we also all have different bodies and different styles. So something that might look amazing on you guys might look absolutely terrible on me, and that's okay. So I think for those people, for sure, get a press kit. A press kit is very, very important. Explain, your story, your stats nowadays on social media, because that's obviously a thing that we always have to consider. I sigh because it's so exhausting, if we're being honest, but it is part of the game. It is what it is. And then reach out to local brands. There's so many incredible designers in Toronto that have their own brands that aren't necessarily in a retail store, aren't at the mall, and are doing cool things. And you don't necessarily need to purchase things. You could just work with them in terms of hey, I love this outfit. This is my sizing. I saw it online. Am I able to pull it for a shoot? Am I able to work with you? Can I come to your studio? Can we take some photos? Whatever kind of thing. And just put yourself out there. I think it's people really underestimate the potential of just asking. You're never going to know unless you ask. So yeah. Look, you got a lot of that. Yeah. Always look in your own space first.
Hi, my name is Mahalia. I'm a student journalist taking journalism as right now, but I have a question for you, Perdita. As someone who played at a high level and then transitioning to broadcasting, how have you seen the portrayal of athletes in fashion change over the years, especially for women in sports?
I think that's a good question. So I think I alluded to it a little bit in that now you have this big visual medium with Instagram and TikTok. And there's, one account that I really like. It's called Track Fits. So she was a former athlete herself, I think European champion. But she does not care if you won a medal. She does not care if you performed well that day. What are you wearing, right? And so I think now the portrayal of women's fashion, before you used to be seen as if you show up to the track and you have your lashes and your lipstick, you're unserious, right? Now if you don't show up, look, you're totally unserious, right? And I, again, think that it's because we're a lot more loud about it. We will not be ignored. We will not be denied, but we have to look at the work that's already been done so that we can be in an environment like this. It's because of the FloJos for me, for my sport. It's the Gail Devers. It's the Serena Williams. Remember when she wore that, was it the cat suit? And they she got fined and all that stuff. Like, she has been on the forefront of this for a long time. You should get to express yourself. You should get to show up exactly as who you are without an organization, some policy saying, no. Too tight, too sheen, too much glitter, too shiny, whatever. It should really be up to you, and I think we're seeing a lot more of that now. It is encouraging that we can control that. You can post something, you can post an outfit. It also is a sense of expression, meaning there are days I would go to the track, and I was a Nike athlete for 10 years, very proud, but you are very limited, and you still are, and I'm talking track specific, in what you could wear. You can't have logos all over. I could have a local sponsorship. You can't wear it. Even when you're at the Olympics and the World Championships, you can't shout out your sponsors and those sorts of things. This is why I like the NIL with the NCAA is, now you can actually do those things. And what you're seeing is a lot of these college athletes, you don't have to be like the number one, draft option. It's the young girl who's doing volleyball, but she's a local hometown hero. So the local bakery is making cookies in her image. And so now it might not be money, but now her likeness, she gets to control where it goes. And so they might not be making millions and tens of thousands of dollars, but it really is allowing them to take that power back. So I do love where women in sport and fashion are going. So now you can show up. Don't do tunnel walks at track because there's no change room. There's no change room in these stadiums, so that's kind of difficult. So the track athletes who do commit to tunnel walks, bless them, because you're in a restroom just changing out of your stuff there. Like, it's very, very, it's not convenient. It's not easy as the NBAers make it look and the WNBAers. But I do think that you can be a professional woman and athlete, and you can do the curls, you can shave your head, you can show up however you want. Let them judge you. Who cares? Just put that ball in that hoop, up your numbers, do whatever you got to do. And I think when you see athletes like Angel Reese, right, how she controls her narrative. And here's the thing, Angel Reese wasn't really into, or was it Skylar Diggins? Skylar Diggins wasn't really into the tunnel walks. But what happened is the other women in the WNBA started to show up. And she's like, I want in on this culture. And now if you notice her evolution of her style, she stepped up. But people like LeBron and Steph Curry, they're still not really out there, right? Like a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is. But you look at it, it's now starting to be this mainstream thing where, what character do I want to be today? Who do I want to be today? And that outfit, that mask. Remember during COVID, all the balaclavas, right? They would all wear these masks, and sometimes they're like monsters and these things. I'm like, wow, they've just reinvented this COVID thing, right? And they're making it fashionable. So I love this era. I want to unretire just so I can come out and do something cute. But it won't happen. I hope I answered your question.
Of Sha'Carri Richardson when you were talking about, and her nails, because I like nail art, and I know Andrea loves her nail art too. So it's cool to see that extension when you mentioned the past Gail Devers and the goats ahead of her and how she's kind of continuing that on. Another question.
Hi, this is a question for Morgan. In terms of even other partnerships, it's all about the collab, right? And so because we cross over fashion and sport, it's an entire culture. So now there's the beauty genre, the beauty category that is totally different, doesn't have that in these men's sports. You have a whole nother lane. And so share a bit about what the thoughts are with that and the tempo.
Shout out to Sephora for coming on board. Their first partnership in Canada, which is super exciting. And Maybelline today, coming on board with the WNBA as a league partner. Sorry, Maybelline New York, I'll say that properly. It's really cool because I think there's so many brands that are looking to be sort of in this non-endemic space. Like, the other brands have been there for so long. We get it. Red Bull goes with sports, and cars go with sports, and beers go with sports. But it's really cool to think about, everything you just touched on. Like now beauty goes with sports, and beauty can mean so many different things. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And a lot of the brands that have been reaching out to us and that we're really interested in working with are not ones that you'd expect and don't naturally have a connection point to sport, but we're finding that. And they do have a natural role in the lifestyle of our fans. And like I said, it doesn't mean that you have to be a basketball fan to be part of our community. So that's really what we're thinking about and tapping into. It's a lot more purpose driven. It's a lot more, lifestyle and culture and art and all the things that sort of surround the game and are off the court that are going to be really interesting from a partnerships perspective. I'm not allowed to share anything else beyond that, but
she's keeping
we're
us on
thinking
our
about
toes.
it. We're with you. And if you have any ideas, if you work for any brands or you want to reach out, like, do it. We're open to it. We want to explore. So
You heard it from her. We have time for one more question.
Yeah, so just a question about just being in Toronto, right? You made an interesting comment about just that crab in the bucket mentality that's here. And sometimes too, whenever we talk about Toronto, there isn't really a culture. And sometimes too, your best and creative people, they want to leave and they're like, I'll just go to the States because there's a better market there, there's more opportunities there. So I guess for everyone, what makes you want to stay in Toronto and invest and do well here?
For me, I really owe it to the community and everyone in Toronto. For us, Peace Collective started as, a very Toronto brand. So, giving thanks to our community, our friends, our families, everyone that supported us from day one. For me, that's why I want to stay in Toronto. I don't ever see myself living anywhere else. I'm proud to be from Toronto. I'm proud to be Canadian. So.
I like that. Okay, so I'm sure we're all proud to be Canadian, and we do thank you all for your wonderful questions. We're going to take a mini break and then flip over so we can do the mini fashion show. Stay tuned for more.
Okay, so the first step that we have is our women's Run the Court long sleeve. This was launched as our very first WNBA collection. Fun fact, our WNBA league-specific products are actually our top selling. Next is our brand new Toronto Tempo knit sweater. I think it might be sold out, but we might do a restock. Next is our newly launched Toronto Scepters jacket. It's the same jacket like I'm wearing, but for Toronto Scepters. Comes in all the different teams, from Toronto Scepters, Frost, Ottawa Charge, Victoire. Next is from our newly launched today, our Barbie PWHL collection. This is a brand new V-neck knit sweater. And last is actually our most popular silhouette. It's our oversized rugby, also from our brand new Barbie PWHL collection. Thank you, guys.